There are now upwards of 100 shipyard workers on board daily again. Walking on deck is jarring and extremely hazardous. Despite 43 days of silence during Shanghai's COVID lockdown, the crew is embracing the chaos, knowing that every day brings us closer to the end of all this and brings us closer to home. Woke up to silence this morning. It's usually constantly noisy, so when there's suddenly no noise at all, usually you wake up. So at some point we had a blackout again. Every morning we are still required to self-test if we are not informed of a Chinese government or shipyard initiated test coming later in the day.
So this morning around 5 a.m., we woke up to another Shanghai shipyard surprise. They had shut off the cooling water to our one and only currently working generator. We started getting cooling water temperature alarms and exhaust temperature alarms, and so we shut the generator down in order to keep it from getting damaged. The one issue that we're currently having with this number 3 generator is that it will not start when it's lined up on the number 3 cylinder. So in order to get it off that cylinder and onto the next cylinder, we need to hand crank it over with the jacking gear. And then we're on the number 7 cylinder, and then we can start. So now that the cooling water has been restored by the shipyard and that we have enough air in the start air tank, we can start the start button and cross our fingers. All right, now that's the sweet purr of the number 3 generator. The lights are back on, we're back in business, and it's time to go to work.
Yeah, go ahead. Start the air handler, start the exhaust fan, and then we'll need to start up the AC and the reefers.
Copy that, sir.
This is the main damper valve. This air comes out of here, goes through the regulator, goes to the pressure switch, goes out through here, and then into both of the air rooms. So that one's closed. All the individual ones are open. They haven't cleaned shit. This is all supposed to be clean. Now when I open the dampers, all that shit's gonna go in the engine. This way you can see how it's not closed all the way. That's why they're working on it. These are all the individual valves here. We gotta make sure these are closed before we open the big valve. I honestly don't know why they're having me test them now, because no work has been done yet. So we'll go open our root valve and then we'll test them all individually. So they're supposed to be cleaning this planet out so that it will close all the way. There should be no play. That hole's not usually there. They cut that so they can take all the fan motors out. It's usually a big ass motor. So down in the engine room, there's a line that comes up here. It branches off to this regulator and then goes up to the pneumatic tank for the quick closing valve. Someone closed the valve down below to that line one time and it shut all those dampers while we were at sea going 80 fucking RPM. And all the engine department was locked inside of the engine room because of the pressure differential. We were under a vacuum. So the ship had to actually slow down so that we could open those dampers back up and get out. pipe 4.
Despite no new COVID positive cases in the Chongming district in over 2 weeks, the Chinese shipyard workers are still under strict orders to be testing multiple times per day. Everything that has been worked on by the shipyard needs to be tested at the end of each job by ship's crew. We are not provided with the number of shipyard safety personnel required to maintain proper fire watches, and the ship's fire alarm system goes off at all hours of the day and night. Ship's crew stands by for accommodation spaces when we discover hazardous situations that need attention. Updating paper and electronic charts is a normal second mate task. It's just weird to continue doing so when the vessel really hasn't moved in the last 3 months.
This is what happens when you cut holes all over the fucking place.
You go to China Shipyard. Number 1.
Woo!
Fuck.
Yeah, this is gonna be a fucking problem. We have a port list now, so the water is just gonna stand right here.
So like more than one kind of thing down because in the cooler, it looked like there was like 2 different cans.
You really cannot make this shit up. Lifeboats to be transported to the hotel for hook install by tech due to quarantine. So they're transporting our lifeboats to a hotel to get worked on by the tech because the tech is being barred from coming to the shipyard.
So now, after literally not having ship's cooling water for months and being solely reliant on the shipyard for cooling water, we are now ready to open and flood our high sea suction.
Smells like fucking black water everywhere. Well, yeah, those guys been working down there. They don't come up to go pee. Yeah.
And pressure test our seawater cooling systems and our high temperature and low temperature cooling water systems. So after a few surprises, namely human feces in the bilges and lots of leaks, everything has been tightened up and we are one step closer to going home.
Okay, cheese mate, I'm gonna throw it from up here. Just a sec. Ready?
Yeah.
You watch that one, I'll watch this one. Ready?
Yeah. Who saw that coming? No one could have anticipated that.
Good one. Poor guy. We got that guy good. We just tried to energize the forward winches.
So I'm shutting off the power to those because we don't want anyone to try to re-energize the winches again after we pop that hydraulic line. Shipyard's gonna have to come back in, redo the blanks so that we can turn the hydraulics on again and take the lines off of the 2 remaining winches on board so that they can work on them. stuck in the fucking elevator.
Probably put one of those white splitters up on the ship so we can do this if we need to.
That would make way too much sense. And there we go again.
Okay, you ready? Ready.
This has really started to become a regular occurrence where the diesel generator cooling hoses from shore, provided by the Chinese, fail, spraying water at full pressure into the engine room and destroying any electronics in their proximity.
That water is coming out of a ballast double bottom tank, and holy shit, it's increasing. The magnitude of water coming out is increasing.
Roger.
Okay, it seems to be subsiding now.
It was coming out of that hammer.
Yeah.
Busan is where we have a chance. If you want to get off, you can get off. But there's criteria, and I posted it, and it's kind of convoluted. First, I have to meet the COI, the Safe Manning Certificate, which means I need to carry a captain, a chief mate, a second mate, a third mate, 6 able seamen, 1 chief engineer, 1 first engineer, 1 second engineer, 1 third engineer, and 3 oiler ratings. Well, there's a couple extras that I don't need that would be able to get off. Now, that being said, you have to meet Busan's requirements. We're coming in is different. It's 7 days for them. So they have to test negative, quarantine for 7 days, test negative, then they can board and you can be replaced. Repatriation. You're on the hook for it. It doesn't matter what day you signed on. Foreign articles were signed January 23rd. Expires July 23rd. So that's the big kicker. You would have to line up your flight. We'd get it set up, but you would be on the hook for paying for it and the quarantine hotel. That's the best I've been able to find out. I looked this all up this morning. I hadn't had any guidance other than like a meeting last night. The company is concerned about us changing crew in Busan, and that's why they're not going to voluntarily get you off in Busan. You're going to be on the hook for it, okay?
A huge problem with companies in the maritime industry globally is that there are a lot of situations where seafarers are stuck in shitty situations, and the companies find that it is easier for them to not switch them out with new people. And that becomes dangerous because that is when companies start treating human beings as if they are assets who can be used indefinitely. The issue with using human beings as if they are assets that can be used indefinitely is that you lose the people who are good. You start losing people who do their jobs well. You start losing experienced people. The people that you're left with, if you're left with anyone, are new people who don't know any better, inexperienced, and then you see a lot more problems.
Those are scooter keys. It's the only way that you know if someone is in a tank or in an enclosed space anytime. The usual procedure is to test the atmosphere of the tank to make sure it's breathable. And then if it's breathable, you make sure you have someone standing by with a radio outside the tank, checking in to make sure you don't die. And you also have a meter on you while you're in the tank to make sure that the atmosphere stays good while you're in there.
This is the most recent email correspondence we received from the Deck Officers Union It reads, "We met with the company labor relations team this morning in a video conference. The situation regarding crew change in Korea was discussed. The company told us that they are still committed to offering a crew change and that the company will coordinate and pay for it. They are still working out details of what exactly the Korean government will require of any person getting off in Korea who is coming from China. It may require up to a 10-day quarantine in Korea. The company didn't have a firm answer on this item. As of today, the union does not have any job orders in the system for any licensed deck officer reliefs on the Wilson. The company did ask if we could provide them a list of the licensed deck officers who are seeking repatriation from Korea. It seemed like the office was unclear on who was even interested in getting off in Korea."
So I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream about my life, what's going on? Woo! And I say, hey, yeah, yeah, hey, yeah, yeah. I said, hey, what's going on?
Spent a lot of money on valves that didn't get put in.
The following content is graphic in the form of blood. Please look away now if you know that this will disturb you. I will have another audio prompt when it's over. Throughout the pandemic, many countries have refused to treat merchant mariners ashore unless their medical condition is likely to be fatal. China is one of these countries. This is usually manageable when we are underway, as we have port calls in the United States and we can get the treatment and medications we need every other month. Living in a Chinese shipyard poses huge risks for foreign crew like us, and of course, the likelihood of injury increases with greater lengths of time subjected to hazardous conditions. With this inevitability, the second mate doubles as medical officer and in coordination with the satellite medical team is authorized to administer basic treatment to any crew member who may need it. This is your audible prompt to look back at the screen if you were looking away for graphic content.
Alright, so it's the morning of 2 June, and something glorious is happening. My cranial foe is being banished from the ship. All the scaffolding is fucking leaving. I'm ecstatic about this because in the last three and a half months, I have smacked my head so many fucking times, sometimes with considerable force. So I am very pleased indeed.
Johnny Poo-Poo Time Clark. Oh.
Yes, I got it. I got it. I got it. How are you, Sherwin?
Doing good?
This is the latest email from the company and reads, in quote, "Captain, I have received your crew change request for Busan. I understand many of the crew understandably desire to get home as soon as possible. While the company is still seeking ways to meet these requests, we have several hurdles to overcome. Percentage of the crew, 15 of the 21 crew have requested relief in Busan. We cannot change out more than 50% of the team for operational safety reasons."
All fixed. All fixed up. All nice and fixed up there.
That's what we get for coming to fucking Changing Island Paradise. I understand some crew have considered quitting now or in Busan. I highly advise against this. If a crew member quits in either location, the port officials will likely not allow them to disembark, and if they did, they would be in the same quarantine condition. Crew should also remember that they are under articles. Quitting while on foreign articles is a violation of the CFR, and while the company is obligated to have the crew member repatriated, it would be at their cost and require us to report the quit to the U.S. Coast Guard. I understand this email isn't the best news. I do not want to sound negative, but I do want you to be aware of the challenges we all face. Please also be advised that I have and will continue to update each of the unions. On a positive note, to compensate the crew who make the voyage back to the U.S., our EVP has authorized a bonus to each crewman of 40 hours of additional overtime. Hopefully the crew will see the return bonus as an example that the company is not making these decisions to avoid costs, but to best assure the vessel makes it back safely without risking the safety of our crew.
The company as I laid out, they consider us on foreign articles, so if you want to get off in Korea, it's going to be a quit. What it'll cost you is the plane ticket and the quarantine hotel, okay? And that'll come out of your paycheck. You understand too, like that's what they were offering was the 40 hours of overtime to make the trip across. So at 9 a.m. we're going to shift from this berth to jetty number 2. We won't be doing any automation testing today due to engine issues.
Up, 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 up. Here we go, testing out our fucking air winches for the first time.
Go ahead.
That 50% crew change, is that just gonna be, that's not gonna be people quitting, right? That's just they choose whoever gets to go home, or how does that work?
I don't believe so. I think it's just like if more than 50% of a crew change occurs with a bunkering operation and all the operations that we got lined up for us in a foreign port right like this, because we do have some operations lined up. It's going to be busy, so that's the other factors that they're considering when they're putting a new crew onto a ship. There's 2 fleet ships that recently had COVID during the crew change. That's the other factor to consider, because then if we did, we would end up having to anchor for 14 days at least. That's what it was. I don't know what it is now. But 14 days outside of Busan, just sitting there at anchor until we're all clear of COVID. That's why they're taking the stance that they did not want to do a crew change in Korea, and they're trying to offer incentives to stay on. There's a lot of factors here. It's not easy. Coming out of the shipyard's not been easy.
Captain, if I tell you right now, my final decision, my final words, I want to go home right away as soon as we get to Korea.
Understood, and I'll let them know that. If you want to stick to what you got, you can give me your sheet back immediately.
Yeah.
So
we just got an email just this morning from our union, still telling the union that it's a regular crew change, that it's going forward. So I don't know
from
where.
Which guy?
This is from.
Okay.
He's speaking, and they're saying that this is just a regular crew change.
That's not what I'm being told. I'm not being told that this is a regular crew change.
I would love clarification from them as to the 50% crew change that they specified on that email. Because if they're choosing 50% of the people...
Well, based off of this list, I got 2/3 of the crew. That's more than 50% that want to change.
Yeah, so how would they be establishing who stays and who goes? I would just love to know that. How are they going down the list and saying this person needs to stay because they're more important and they need to be there for fuel oil transfers? Like, does this person go because, you know?
Well, I don't know.
But if we could get clarification, that'd be great.
Okay.
They do realize that if everybody stays in Korea, everybody's getting off in LA, and that's 100% crew change.
So it's the same fucking situation.
It's the same situation, but we're going to be bunkering as well.
Well, so the other thing on that is we're inside the U.S. We got different quarantine laws in the U.S.
But they're making a big deal about this 50%. It's just bullshit.
We're rusty. We haven't shifted since March 21st. Be safe out there. Like, look out for each other.
Here comes the aisle. Bridge belly got offshore headlines on deck, moving on to inshore. And then once it's all in the water, it's no big deal. We can just bring them up as we like. Good job, good job. All right, let's bring it up. Good job, good job. Disengage both, disengage both. Beautiful. Wipe? You got a wipe? You poop?
Where's our lifeboat? Port side. It's missing. Only the starboard I saw it.
Probably still at the hotel.
Because we are still dead ship, meaning that we don't have main engine capability, it takes 3 of the shipyard's tugs to move us from berth to berth. And that's really just at the discretion of the shipyard. If they need a berth open, then they move us around. Much of the time, shipyard workers who had been working at the time we got underway get stuck on board for shifts.
Okay, stand clear, okay? This is gonna be very fast.
Company not agree, then we will quit.
Yeah, I can't quit.
Huh?
I can't quit.
You can?
No.
Why?
Because I could lose my license. I requested a relief, but if they don't relieve me, I won't quit. Because I worked too hard for the license and this is fucking bullshit. I mean, I'm not gonna lose my license over this fucking situation, you know?
Yeah, me.
Yeah, I hear you.
Why they gonna hold our license? We're not doing some, you know.
I know. Thank you.
We're not doing anything wrong.
I know.
Just because we gonna go home.
Did they really fucking do this right now? Look at this. Are you serious?
As of last night, the schedule changed, and they're trying to change it to accommodate us.
We are the champion.
We are the champion.
That guy is the champion too.
He's the champion. Hello, hello.
These are a couple factors that they think about. It's more comfortable for us to carry more weight across the ocean. That's what we do. It gets our GM nice and low. It makes for a good ride across the ocean. So there's a lot of cargo here. There's a lot of cargo in Qingdao, and they top us off in Busan.
No, so we did end up getting the ball.
How many tons is this supposed to be rated for?
A couple things have to happen for us to even be able to get out of here, and it's the successful testing of our systems. Some of you gave me your decisions yesterday, and then I need to know some of your decisions today. So what it is it's going to be considered a quit in Busan. Okay, that's the way they're going to look at it. I have to log it. It goes in the official log. I have to log everyone's dispensation, the way they get off the vessel, and then I have to report that to the Coast Guard. And it's up to them on how they plan to proceed with that. And they are well aware of our situation. But it's going to be considered a quit.
Yes, I will consider to quit.
100%.
My final decision.
Okay, that's great, and I appreciate you saying that because I want to make it clear, because I'll have to get a relief, which will help the rest of the crew. Because if something gets messed up in the process, the rest of the crew could be subject up to 14 days of quarantine if there was a COVID positive case in the middle of this. If I don't meet COI, if I don't meet the safe manning level requirements, we stop. None of us signed up for this. Okay, I understand that. You got all those factors to consider. If you could get me your on-off sheets by the end of the day, I respect your decision. Okay, but it would help me out immensely if I could plan for whoever's going to quit, and that way we can get it. We can try our best to get a relief into Busan. Okay.
Hi everyone, it's me again. I'm Sherwin Wongayan. I'm AB here on the ship, and I've been sailing for 17 years. But right now, it seems like getting back to normal. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully we're getting there. Yeah, yesterday we shifted another dock, and they took out everything, stops in here. And there's a bunch of trash in the ship, and we have to take them all together for the COI inspection. A lot of inspectors coming up on board. So everything must be cleared out. It should be seaworthy before we left on the ship. And we are start closing, sealing all those manholes. Eventually they're gonna pressure test it, put water on it, and hope everything's gonna be okay. And there's one thing that I'm worried about is when we cross back to the ocean. I've been a lot of dry docks, and then I'm sure there's gonna be a totally blackout while in the middle of the sea. That's the main thing I'm concerned about, I'm worried about. Hopefully this soon will be over, and I'm gonna bring this ship back to the mainland. So take care guys, and God bless. See you all.
We're finally fucking filling ballast tanks. This is just all the process to finally get underway. So right here is a bunch of sounding equipment to sound tanks because, of course, our gauges don't fucking work still. So we have to check them manually. She makes up the ballast system right now with all the valves, and we're running around sounding tanks. So usually the method that I would use in a situation where the water level is likely higher in the tank is using a plopper, which basically just makes it so you don't have to drop the tape down multiple times into the tank. In this situation, because we don't have a plopper on board, you basically have to guess where the water level is or drop it down and get a rough idea of where the water level is, and then you put a water finding paste on the tape, and you see here it's very obvious where the water level is with that water finding paste. It's just a bit of a tedious process. Back to the chief mate, make sure we're doing okay, make sure the levels correspond with the gauges, and if they don't, make note of that, as if they're ever gonna get fixed at this point. But oh, super. Now we're going down into every hold to make sure that the bilges can be pumped. There isn't a bunch of fucking trash in them, because we don't want any trash in our system. So that's our fueling pump. Looks like it's ready to go, eh? Each winch brake has to withstand a certain hydraulic pressure, and so this is going around to each and every individual winch and testing that. And looks like George is healing up nicely. Feels really quiet on board right now. A little unsettling. Got a fucking headache all day. It's almost like it's the silence before the storm, you know? Storm after storm after storm after storm. Today at noon we're doing our sea trials finally. So fingers crossed that goes well. Yeah, go ahead. There it is. Okay. Down a little. Bridge valve forward, tug fast on the starboard valve. Alright. The breaker informant 123. This is where we live. This is our home. Testing out the bow thruster. Slowly getting the ship back in order, putting mooring lines back on the winches now that they're back on the ship. Changing out gaskets, closing manholes. It's a beautiful day. It's beautiful. Getting my contacts cleaned out. I guess sea trials went okay because we're heading back to the dock. Hopefully
Hopefully just one more hour out here. That's my favorite boat. Great name. New berth again. Started our shift today at 12 o'clock and we just got done at 17:20-ish. There's our trash barge down there. Sounds like all the engine stuff went okay, so hopefully we'll actually get out of here sometime in the next few days.
So today is the day that all engineers love, the dreaded blackout day.
Yeah. Let me know when you're up there.
It takes a lot of coordination between the engineers in the engine room and the electrician in the emergency generator room. So we do this test once a year with our class certification society, DNV, which stands for Det Norsk Veritas. So what happens during the blackout test is that we shut down abruptly the working online generator. This generator is what is providing power to the ship. So once this generator is shut down, the test is that within 10 seconds, the emergency generator comes online and supplies power to the emergency bus and the emergency systems. Now, the next part of the blackout test is to start the emergency diesel generator locally. And the second part of the test is to start the emergency generator by hand by cranking it on its hydraulic starter and starting it that way.
We just came to a shipyard. Ready?
So once we have successfully started the emergency generator, then the final test is to stop it by using the remote fuel shutoff valve.
Forget the kid.
Getting close here, doing last bit of checks with DNV so that we can pass for class. Hopefully in the next few days we'll be passed and working cargo again.
Now that the shipyard is wrapping up, all of our safety and firefighting equipment that had been secured can be put back out again. Much of this equipment, such as fire hose nozzles and caps, is brass and gets locked away at the beginning of yard periods to deter theft. This is common practice in the maritime industry.
This one we had it turned on this morning to prime the emergency fire pump, but they finished that, so now we can finish this. We did the rest of the tunnel earlier.
The two third mates are in charge of safety equipment aboard, so they spearhead this refit with the bosun and the ABs.
Yeah, with this, I got
It's time to restore. Restoration.
So I made our route to Qingdao because we thought we were going to be going there first, but now they want us to go down the river, anchor, be put back in service, and then come back up the river, and then go to our usual dock. We're here. This little spot here. They want us to go all the way down, which is a 5 to 6 hour transit. We're here. Our usual dock is right around in there. Okay. It's 3:50 in the morning and we are back on sea watches as of midnight, which means that we're getting underway soon. So that's exciting news. Hopefully we make it down the river.
Mate on watch, engine room is manned.
Engine room man, thanks.
back in service, and then we will be able to continue working cargo on our usual liner service run. There's the pilot mothership there. And out we go. There are various signal flags used by the maritime industry. This one is Hotel H, which represents having a pilot on board.